So this video takes me to my own backyard in Calgary, and I wanted to focus on a Calgary home, not necessarily a mid-century home, but the collection inside that home. It's very intriguing to me how people collect. And I met this couple in my store. I always thought they were brother and sister, but they're actually a couple who have been collecting for years. But they always intrigued me because they were so discerning. They had such great taste, and both are such incredible community activists on so many levels. And they also have traveled the world. They took a year off to go to 12 countries in 12 months. And I just like their perspective on collecting. So this episode is dedicated to Capri and Jason and the whole evolution of collecting.
So I think the places to find things, online, online resale sites, Etsy, eBay, Kijiji, Facebook Marketplace, things like that. I really enjoy estate sales though, and I think why I enjoy estate sales so much is I feel like it's a little museum of someone's life, and you go into their home and you get to know the person, and I feel like a sense of connection. That's my sentimentality. And so I have a feeling for the person. I look at the books that they read, and I love museums so much for the story they tell. And I honestly think an estate sale tells a story of someone's life a little bit, and you get a little bit of a window into it. And I find a very sentimental process going through someone's estate, because often it means they've passed away or they've moved into a different stage in their life. So I think those are the spaces. Of course, garage sales and antique sales and things like that. You still find deals because sometimes people just put something up and haven't done a lot of research. I think, using the internet, so if things are signed, checking out hallmarks and signatures, checking out the quality of something. And if you start to like a specific thing, so like we like West German pottery, so it's pretty easy to spot West German pottery now. You're looking for woods and on wood, looking for the join work and things like that, and looking for labels and stickers, all that kind of stuff. But I just think often stuff that's older is built of higher quality, so you can kind of feel the heaviness in it and the wear and the natural wear mark. Certainly for me individually, my collecting has really evolved over the years, and then as a couple as well. So my first time I actually consciously decided to collect, I was about 5. And so when my maternal grandmother passed away, she left me a little cat ornament on a boot. And I remember that at that point, I'm like, I'm going to collect cats. That's what I'm going to do. And so I started collecting cats. And so I have an entire steamer trunk full of cats. And then really my first vintage collection, I was 12, and I was at a little tiny antique store in Red Deer, Alberta. And I vividly remember walking in there, and there was this black cat mug. It was $3.75, which was a lot of money when I was 12, and I just had to have it. And so I bought that, and I just became obsessed, and I started, looking into what it was. And it's a Japanese collection called Shafford. And so it's a very kitschy 50s collection of pottery glazed with coal paint kitchenware. Decorative, you really couldn't use it because it would, the paint wouldn't hold up. And then I found the second piece of that when I was a teenager at a flea market in BC, and it was a teapot. And after that, I've amassed a really large collection of probably 70-some pieces of that. So that was kind of the before Jason times. And then Jason and I met in high school and have been together since we were 18. And we really started, collecting or picking stuff up when we were young. It was, out of necessity with like garage sales and thrift shops. The first thing we bought together as a couple was a 1940s, 30s couch that we had, and I remember it was $160, and I bought it in Red Deer at an antique store, and it was the very first big ticket purchase we made, and that would have been in the 90s. And from there, our styles just really evolved. More of our collectible stuff that are what I call my smalls, like, vases or jewelry or other types of things that we collect those tend to stay. And then also art, like we have a lot of art, and I think with art we often are looking for what moves us, but also we seem to really like to collect Canadian art, so quite a few Canadian artists. But his first name is Maurice. He's a Canadian designer from Eastern Canada, from Quebec, actually. And I found them all together, and they really, really reminded me of Charlie Harper, especially there's a black bird. I think it's a rooster with a red crest, and it just reminded me of Charlie Harper so much, and I couldn't turn away from them. And I do like Canadian art. And so, I bought the whole little collection, and it sits in my spare room. One of the things we was a more recent collection. We went to an estate sale of a very prominent collector here in Calgary who was into vintage radios, and so we ended up getting 2 Panasonic vintage radios. But we were just moved, I think, by this man and his collection and his love of collecting, that we just felt compelled to pick something up. We do like technology and space, so we have some sub-collections on both. So certainly we have some NASA collections. One of the things we have is a binder that a child put together of all their communication with NASA and postcards and stuff. And we've added more vintage NASA postcards to that. We have a model of the moon. We have a Russian lamp, which commemorates one of the rockets going up. One of the things I like collecting too, and this reminds me of it, I really like World Fairs. The Seattle World Fair had an installation of, they called them space-age totem poles or poles, and they were just long, tall poles that were painted in multiple colors. They were very space-age kind of looking and very interesting. Well, we found a model of it, an original little model of it. That was a souvenir from that World's Fair. And we had this metal pole in front of our house that was just plain brown. And it was begging for something to be done with it. So my husband measured it out exactly, took in the pole to a paint store and got the paint colors matched as close as possible. And then we masked it all off and painted it together one evening and painted it to match exactly and scaled it up. And I think, honestly, every time I come home, it makes me smile. It's just this little pop of color in our very industrial cement house, and I just love it. So we have a bit of a sub-collection of Calgary and Alberta stuff. So one of the things I have is an original invitation to the opening of the Husky Tower. So again, the sentimentality piece, this is where we live. This is, the land that I was born in here in Alberta. So I think those types of things become somewhat sentimental because we're from here. I think ideally, if things in the home can be beautiful and useful, that's kind of a goal. And so one of the things, over our years of being together, we've been able to, upgrade our pots. And so we have Lettercut pots. And so 2 of them are new, but one of them's vintage from my very dear friend Dinah, who gave me this lovely orange saucepan. And so we have this lovely little set of blue, red, and orange pans. And also in the kitchen, we have a mix of new and old appliances and equipment, depending what's going to work the best. So for instance, we have like an interesting vintage Vitamix, again, estate sale. It's all chrome, and Jason's grandmother's original Sunbeam toaster. And then a couple of years ago, we purchased the original silverware that was used in one of Stanley Kubrick's films. The company still exists, and they're still making the same quality of stuff, like the pots, like some of the Danish silverware and stuff. So the same designs are still in use today and still sold today. We have some other tapestries. So we have this interesting one that I think is Japanese, and it's a rug we hang on our banister. I have another one that is, I believe it's Nordic, from one of the Nordic countries. I can't remember which one, and it also hangs on the banister. So I actually think that's a nice way to display textiles, is hanging over the banister, then you can really see them. The one on the table is new. It was handmade by an artisan in Tofino, and actually we purchased it at the Wickenish there where we got married. And so it just really, whenever I see it or look at it, it's that sentimentality. It brings me back to the wedding and and all of the wonderful memories of that day and the friends and family. And so this, and it just matched perfectly. Like it looks like it could be vintage, yet it was, made in the 2000s. I think probably the most interesting one we have is an extremely, extremely long hallway runner. And I don't even know, it's got to be 40 feet long or more. And when we were traveling and staying in New York, we went to a flea market in Hell's Kitchen. And I saw it there and I was obsessed with it. But I thought, it's heavy, it's bulky. We'd have to haul it back to the apartment we were staying in. We'd have to get it home. And I kept circling and looking at it. And then I'd like, no, we're not going to get it. And then I came back and I'm like, the guy's like, I know you're going to get this. And he's right. And we did. We have some R. Huber furniture. So we have a couch downstairs and we had that refinished locally. And then I got a really great R. Huber scoop chair for nothing at a garage sale, and I love that chair. It's where I read, it's where I sit. And it's bright orange and it's great, so I have that. The table and chairs, so we actually got it shipped and created from Eastern Canada on eBay, and it actually wasn't that much to have it shipped to the house. So we got that set, and at the same time we got the credenza as well. And I don't know the designer of the credenza, but our kitchen is a small galley kitchen, and so it gives us a lot of extra room having the credenza. I apologize for my cat. So initially we found this beautiful dental cabinet and I just fell in love with it. It is so heavy. It is obnoxious to move. It's that heavy. And it's got all these tiny little drawers in it. And I thought it's perfect to put little collections in. So we picked that up at an antique store and then did some research on it and realized from its like coloration, its, handles and stuff that it was Norman Bel Geddess. And it's kind of in the light buttery yellow with black trim. And then when we were getting ready to travel for an extended period of time, we were renting our house out. So we wanted the spare room to be a bedroom to rent. And so we were looking for a bed. And we were lucky enough to find the same color Norman Bel Geddess bed and side table in the same colors. So it just looks like it came together. And so we have that in the spare room. And so it's just great. It's a great place to sit. That room would be the room that has the most stuff in it. I lovingly refer to it as a museum of things. So it's very full of just items that I like. It's a place where I read. It's a place where the cat hangs out. And I name it the Museum of Things after a really phenomenal museum in Berlin that was just a museum of things and like just random things. When we bought this house, it had no doorbell. And so we had heard about these wind-up doorbells that sandwich between your door. So there's a bell on the inside and a twist on the outside. And so we've been looking for one and looking for one. And we were at an antique sale in Red Deer. And often Jason and I split up to cover, because we look differently. We have different speeds and we double back and things like that. And I found one and I rang it. And from across the way, he just looked up and ran over. He knew what it was immediately, that I'd found the bell. And so I just feel like that was interesting because the sentimentality that we both knew, he just heard that sound from across this big, arena in Red Deer. And that was it. We bought the bell. I think that's one of the things I collect too, especially when I see something maybe at a garage sale or something like that, is I'm afraid it's going to be lost, right? That it's going to be forgotten or an estate sale, or someone doesn't maybe know its importance, in the design world. And so I feel a little bit like, you're kind of curating or saving. And I think that goes back to my Goonie days, favorite childhood movies where I was always into like treasure hunting and finding things and preserving. And so, yeah, I think that's why, you view connection with them. Like I remember most things, the estate sale or the person that it was connected to. Like, I remember the store I bought a little black vase in Germany, so you have those connections. And so I also have a goal of maybe typewriting out some of the descriptions of things and hiding them in the item or on the item. So again, I don't forget one day when, my house becomes an estate sale, people have a history of what the item meant, and who it was connected to.
The tip for the mid-century dweller in this episode is for anyone who's bought a house, has a business, has built a tiny house, and you want a very minimalistic aesthetic for the exterior of your building. I want to recommend a husband and wife team, originally from Grand Prairie, and now they've moved to Manitoba, but the group is called Lettercut, and they make extraordinary numbers and letters that are really minimal, and they have a very stream-like look. To keep it simple, currently they have standard selection of 3 main styles that come in 3 sizes, all available in black, white, or silver. So you can have the look that you want, including lower and uppercase alphabet letters and direction arrows. They're made from aluminum plastic composite signboard, so they're lightweight, but they're durable for any kind of weather you have, whether it's hot sun, rain, or frigid winter. They're not made from steel, so they're typically affordable and corrosion resistant than solid metal. And unlike solid plastic, this can be painted so that it matches your door or other decor. They're also really easy to install. The color match screws and spacers options are simply fastened, and they provide spacers, giving this really cool 3-dimensional look. You can also do the peel and stick, which has pre-applied heavy-duty tape that you can stick to any smooth surface. And if you need a template, all you have to do is go to the website and download one. And because you're viewing this video, Lettercut is providing mid-century dwellers a 10% discount, and all you have to do is punch in the code MCD10. Highly recommend it. Brian and Jane are really wonderful people to work with. Yeah, get Lettercut.